What is up, everybody? Purple and Gold podcast for Monday, January 26th, from a frigid Tiger Den in St. Charles Parish, Louisiana. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Hope everybody is staying warm amidst these next couple of frigid days here in South Louisiana and wherever you may be listening or watching this. So on Friday night, Lane Kiffin and LSU finished off the number one transfer portal class, one of the biggest transfer portal hauls of all time, when they landed Colorado offensive tackle Jordan Seaton out of the transfer portal. It's now been made official. He has signed, and there are reports today that he will actually be able to be enrolled in school for this upcoming current semester right now, despite having missed the deadline. It seems like with the president, Dr. Roos, and the athletic director, Verge Osberry, and the governor all being on the same page, it looks like exceptions will be made, and Jordan Seaton will be enrolled at LSU here soon if he's not already today. And so he will participate in spring practice. LSU finishes with 42 incoming transfers, and all told on the roster, both the returnees that they had to re-recruit and the 42 players they brought in and the 16 freshmen that they're going to bring in. It seems like this roster probably cost in the neighborhood of $40 million. LSU should be a playoff contender in 2026, assuming Sam Levitt is healthy. And I believe LSU will be ranked, anywhere from 5 to 10 or 12 in these early preseason polls when they roll around in August. What does Jordan Seaton do for LSU's offensive line? We've talked about it a little bit before. If you watch every day, thank you, shout out. And also, please like and subscribe and comment and do all those things. Basically Jordan Seaton locks up left tackle. Braylon Moore's already locked up center. Ali Oba from Maryland, should lock up the right guard spot. And this allows Weston Davis, who is probably penciled in as the starter at right tackle, to at least have some competition, whether that's Sean Tompkins from Baylor, who may also be your backup left tackle. Does he provide Weston Davis some competition at right tackle? Darren Stray from Kentucky, also a tackle. Devin Harper, who I project will probably compete for a starting spot at left guard, but Devin Harper was certainly going to potentially be Ole Miss's starting right tackle in 2026 per some people who cover the Rebs. So what this has done is it has created some competition. So now you'll probably have a 2 or 3 man competition at left guard, probably between Devin Harper, Solomon Thomas, maybe a guy like Jaquan Sprinkle, who transferred in from NC Central. And then you've now got, between William Satterwhite and the aforementioned guys, you've probably got 9 or so guys that I think they feel really good about, not counting the 2 true freshmen that'll come in, and not counting, a JC guy like Jacoby Jones, who may be able to give you some depth. So LSU's offensive line, which, was terrible last year and really on paper was barren when the transfer portal started, excuse me, now seems like a competent to strength, position of strength on the offensive line. When you look back on the transfer portal, now that it's pretty much done for LSU, you think back to LSU not having a scholarship quarterback on the roster when Colin Hurley and Juwan Johnson and Michael Van Buren left. And now the 3 guys they've got in Levitt and Longstreet and Landon Clark. You look at, potentially having only 1 running back in the fold when Harlem Berry re-upped. And then, you get Dylan Jones and Racine Guillory and Rod Jones out of the transfer portal. You get Caden Durham to come back. Every receiver, with the exception of Philip Wright, had transferred out. You bring in 9 receivers. You lose some guys on the defensive line who I think they would have like to have kept, but you bring in Prince Will, Uman Miel, and you bring in Jordan Ross at edge. You bring in Stephylan Green and Malik Blockton on the inside. You sign all of those great high school defensive linemen that, Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson and Deuce Geralds and Trenton Henderson. You lose AJ Halsey at safety to the draft. You bring in Ty Benefield. Deshaun Spears goes in the portal, but they get him back out. You don't lose DJ Pickett or PJ Woodland at corner. It just has been, you get the kicker from Arkansas, you get the long snapper from Florida. Quite frankly, it was just about as good of a job as this staff could have done in terms of the roster retention piece, their evaluation of that, and then bringing in a transfer portal class that we'll likely never see again. So it seems like LSU's probably done in the portal. Moving on, LSU basketball, a tough loss on Saturday afternoon in Fayetteville. Led a good bit of the way, hung around that thing for a long time, eventually dropped it 85-81, had a real tough time getting home. Didn't get home until about 5 or 6 yesterday. I texted, with my friend in the basketball program and let him know, I was thinking about him and I know it was a tough travel day and a tough situation up there in Fayetteville with the snow and the ice and whatever. Tigers will be home on Wednesday night to play Mississippi State. I'll be at that game. LSU's actually got a little bit of a runway here. They play Mississippi State at home. They play South Carolina on the road on Saturday. Then they play Georgia at home next week. 3 games that are winnable. I think LSU has to win them all. The Ken Palm projections, that's a guy named Ken Pomeroy. He does his projections. LSU's favored to actually win all 3 of these games. They're only between 42 and 45 in these net rankings and these efficiency rankings. So they're right there on the cusp. If they could win all 3 of these next 3 games, they can't really afford to drop any of those and get back to 4 and 6, then I think we can start talking about a path maybe to 9 and 9 in the conference and a path back to the NCAA tournament. The LSU women's team will play Florida tonight. That game has been moved up from 7 Central to 6 Central on the SEC network. That game will go on as scheduled. Florida is here. They got here yesterday. So no issues there. There were some cancellations on the women's side. There were some not cancellations. There were some postponements on some SEC games on the women's side. So they'll have to deal with that in the month of February and make up a couple of those games, but that will not affect LSU. Lady Tigers on the floor tonight, probably a big home favorite against Florida. And then, baseball's right around the corner, right? So we've hit that period now. We're 18 days away. Tigers have been out there having some scrimmages. They didn't scrimmage over the weekend because of the weather. They did go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They went a little bit of an extended scrimmage on Friday. And mixed results, but certainly some encouraging results. Marcos Paz, a freshman pitcher who we're going to talk a lot about, threw an inning and 2/3 and struck out 5 guys. Braden Simpson homered. Tanner Reeves hit a home run. We're going to talk a lot about LSU baseball, probably starting tomorrow. I may just go position by position. Maybe we'll go infield. Maybe we'll go outfield. Maybe we'll go catchers. Then we'll do pitchers. Maybe we'll break that down by starters and relievers. I've got a lot of thoughts on LSU's baseball team. Jay Johnson's given a lot of interviews over the last week or 10 days, and he's very, transparent when he gives these long-form interviews about the team. So I think there's a lot we can deduce and take away from that. And so we'll certainly begin to talk about that. Lane Kiffin and his crew, they've moved on to the high school recruiting for 2027. Lane's been all over New Orleans, Carr, St. Aug, Brother Martin. He was at Jesuit today, Rummel. He's been at Lutcher. He's been at Destrehan. He's been all over. Some of the other staff have been in North Carolina recruiting players, in Texas. So I think you'll see LSU's focus, and you have seen LSU's focus now shift to the high school recruiting class. We'll be back to talk about it, and we'll talk a little bit more about LSU baseball tomorrow As always, like, share, subscribe, wherever you're watching this. If you can hear my voice, it certainly help out. And always comment and interact. So that'll do it for today. As always, be good to one another. I'll add, stay warm, and always, 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 go Tigers.